Hi, this is Mark Smith at Red Wave Investments. Today I want to talk about checking in on your 401k. It's always good to check on your 401k probably at least once a year, and today seems like as good a day as any if you haven't done so recently. Generally when you have a 401k plan, you'll have somewhere between, call it 15 to 20 different investment options that you can choose from. One of the more popular investment choices for people in the last few years has been what's called target date funds. These are funds where you pick the year that you think you're going to retire, maybe it's 2035 or whatever the year is, and you just put your money into that fund, and the fund over time changes your allocation appropriate for your age at that point in time. I generally tell people not to invest in those funds. If you look at a typical target date fund, you're going to pay a layer of fees to the fund that you're invested in, and then that mutual fund is going to go out and buy a bunch of other mutual funds where you're going to pay a second layer of fees. So I think you're better off taking a little bit of time, watching this video, getting some ideas on how to allocate your 401k, and just doing it directly into the original funds instead of using the target date funds. So speaking about the individual fund choices, you know, every plan has a different list of funds that you can use, but there's largely buckets that they fall into. So what I normally recommend for people is a basic S&P 500 index fund. It might be called like a large cap equity fund or an S&P 500 index fund. I think that's probably 20 to 30% of your fund, 20 to 30% of your equity allocation. Then there should be a large cap growth or a large cap value fund. I think the combination of those two makes sense for another 30-ish% of your equity account. And then the rest of it should be split between some mid-cap funds, a small-cap fund, and international growth fund. And generally, 401k plans have all those different options for you. There might only be one in each one, but that can kind of get you your allocation for your equity side. Now, those percentages that I gave you are just what your equity percentage is. So the next thing you want to consider is fixed income and whether you want to have bonds in your portfolio. I think bonds provide stable income, but given where interest rates are, I wouldn't recommend having a large percentage of your portfolio in that. So what I normally recommend is people under 40, I think you're somewhere between 0 and 10 or 15% as the maximum for fixed income allocation in your 401k. If you're, say, between 40 and 60, I think somewhere in the 10 to maybe 30% range for fixed income, dependent upon your own risk profile. And if you're over 60, you know, I think somewhere in the 15 to 35% range makes sense to have in fixed income. Now, if you have the option to have stock in your own company as part of your 401k, I generally recommend people keep only between 5 and 10% of their entire 401k in that. It's just too much risk to have your paycheck and then a large portion of your 401k tied to the same company. So anyway, hope this helps, and if you have any questions or want any information, feel free to reach out. Thanks.